So welcome to everyone who's joining us here on Zoom and to anyone who's watching the live stream on YouTube. I'm Alice. I'm the Director of Development for Antaeus Theater Company. And this afternoon, we're really excited to be having this community salon event with the North Hollywood Library, or the North Hollywood Amelia Earhart branch of the Los Angeles Library. Just since I know there are going to be people here who aren't familiar with us, Antaeus is a professional theater company based in Glendale. We were founded in 1991. So this year it's our 30th anniversary. We are primarily known as a classical theater company, but as you'll hear more about tonight, in the last few years, we've also put a lot of energy behind beginning to produce new work, new kinds of work in addition to the classics. In May, we released our second season of the Zip Code Plays, which is a series of audio plays, each set in a different Los Angeles zip code. The Zip Code Play series is sponsored by the Michael J. Connell Foundation, and the play that we'll be listening to today is sponsored by April Webster. We started this project last summer, because we wanted to create something that audiences could enjoy safely from home while the doors of the theater have been closed during the pandemic. And we decided to focus this project on Los Angeles neighborhoods because we wanted to highlight the cultural diversity of our city. And we also wanted to focus on community and connection during a time that many of us have been fairly isolated. So the Zip Code Plays were written by members of the Antaeus Playwrights Lab. And they were directed and performed by incredibly talented artists from the Antaeus community. We released our first season of the Zip Code Plays last November. Second season was on May 20th. And during that time, they've been streamed about 65,000 times. So in just a moment, we will listen to 91601 North Hollywood End of the Line. Plays about 30 minutes long. And after it's done, we'll have a discussion with playwright Peppur Chambers, director Gregg T. Daniel, Antaeus's producing executive director Anna Rose O'Halloran, and two representatives from the Los Angeles Public Library, North Hollywood librarian Brian Cunningham, and California history subject specialist Kelly C. Wallace. For guests joining us on Zoom, if you think of any questions you'd like to ask the group, you can add those to the Q&A anytime. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can feel free to add questions there through the chat. If you'd like to check out the rest of our Zip Code Plays, and we certainly hope you do, we'll be sharing those links so that you can check them out. Once again, I want to say thank you to our generous sponsors and to all of our donors who have made the Zip Code Plays project possible. And thank you to all of you for joining us. And now please enjoy 91601 North Hollywood End of the Line.
Hello, and welcome to the Zip Code Plays, a collection of original audio plays brought to you by Antaeus Theater Company. I'm company member Ramón de Ocampo, and I'm your host for this journey across the vibrant and diverse neighborhoods that make up Los Angeles. We want to respectfully acknowledge the Gabrielino Tongva peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. Before we get into our story today, I wanted to mention Antaeus Theater Company's education arm for anyone who is interested in getting involved, learning, or training with us. There's a quote from the Greek writer Aeschylus that says, "It is always in season for old men to learn." Our academy trains the next generation of actors and seasoned actors looking to hone their skills with classes in movement, voice, and scene study. And our Arts Ed program brings the joy of Shakespeare and other classics to communities most in need of greater arts access throughout the Southland. They are two fantastic programs that we take a lot of pride in. Now, on with the show. In this episode, we actually find ourselves in a familiar neighborhood for Antaeus. Before moving into our permanent home in downtown Glendale, we spent several years in the quickly gentrifying neighborhood of the NoHo Arts District, located, you guessed it, in the valley north of Hollywood. NoHo is known for its up-and-coming theaters, retro-inspired cocktail lounges, sound stages, and is the home of the Academy of TV Arts and Sciences. And you can get there by subway. Which brings us to playwright Peppur Chambers' 91601 North Hollywood. End of the line.
Here you go. I added a touch more vermouth this time, and 2 olives.
Yum. That glass looks deliciously frosty. Thanks, babe. Smart to bring a tray with your cute little shaker this time.
Whoa!
Oh, careful.
That came out of nowhere.
Doors have a way of doing that. Here, put the tray down on this table.
Perfect. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Honey, look down there. You see that?
What?
Look at that guy on the corner down by the coffee shop. Do you see him?
No.
You don't see him.
I said no.
He is wearing a yellow shirt.
And?
It is the same yellow shirt I saw yesterday on the lady who was standing on the corner with the weirdo baby stroller that had no baby in it.
So?
It was the same shirt.
Okay.
We should do something.
Why?
Because it is very possible that he did something to her.
Such as?
Something bad. Because, who does that? What are the chances? How would he get the same shirt without taking it from her? And, well, I don't want to assume things, but he probably took it by force, and you know what that means.
They live together?
You think so?
They could.
But where?
I don't know them. I don't know.
Lamont. They look like they're experiencing homelessness.
They could still live together.
Or not.
Or it's a coincidence and they both have the same shirt.
Nothing is a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason.
You noticed the shirt. Maybe that's the reason.
You're right. The reason could be for me to have noticed the shirts as confirmation to an idea that has been mulling around in my head for some time now.
You have a lot of ideas mulling, Aimee-Lynn, especially after a second martini.
I know. And I'm going to take that as a compliment and as one of the many reasons why you love me.
Okay, but I love you because you make good meatloaf. Kiss, please.
You taste like sweet vermouth.
Your sweet vermouth.
I know. What are you doing?
I need to fix this little IKEA table. It wobbles. A wobble is good for no one, especially a martini.
Speaking of fixing things, are you ready for my idea?
Not really, my love, but please go ahead.
I want to open a detective agency. That's enough. Thanks. Hear me out.
Do I have a choice?
No, not if you want meatloaf.
Oh, please continue, my lady.
So, you know how I always notice things? Like last week when we were walking the dogs and I noticed the headless dead rat in the grass by St. Paul's, and then the dead squirrel tail in the garbage by the school, and then yesterday the dead bird by that abandoned shed where the gray cats live?
Yep.
And the shirts today. And then the white Mustang that has been parked on Blakesley by the dance studio for months. By the way, I tried to look up how you can look up a license plate. I got nowhere. But somebody belongs to that car. What if they died and they were some young dancer kid who used to go to the dance studio right there, and all this time the parents have been looking for the car because it belonged to their kid who came to LA to make it as a dancer?
You've been watching too much Law and Order, Aimee-Lynn. I've told you to watch something else.
It's on every channel.
You're gonna drive yourself crazy thinking about these things.
I thought of that too. And it's how I got my idea.
We should paint this railing.
You're starting to piss me off, Lamont.
Aimee-Lynn, I'm listening to you.
No, you aren't. Every time we come out here, you find a project to focus on more than me. That table, the railing, the plants, that crack in the pot.
I like to tinker with things.
Lamont!
Okay, go. Oh, careful. Leaning on the railing like that. You don't want your glass to slip and hit the folks below, or worse.
I'm fine. I'm going to make us a shit ton of money.
By noticing things?
By opening up my own detective agency, by fixing things I find.
You have to get a license.
Maybe.
No, I think you need a license.
Maybe. Guess what the name will be?
I don't want to guess.
God, you are seriously no fun. The Weirdo Things Detective Agency. That's what I'm going to call it. The Weirdo Things Detective Agency. I already looked it up, and it's completely available.
Who will be your clients?
I was thinking other people like me who see things and want them figured out.
Why would they pay you for that?
Because they want things figured out.
But...
You're always shooting me down. In March, you may recall you had an idea about quitting set design, us selling everything and building a tiny house in the woods on land that had a sustainable garden. You said it's now or never, baby.
I'd had a few CBD gummies.
I listened to you, and I thought about it all the way down to the cabinet hardware. I would like the same courtesy. Can't you see that everything is falling apart? That someone needs to be noticing the little things that unravel into big things? Shit needs to be addressed right now. Who's gonna do it if I don't?
Okay. I see now. I'm sorry.
You have to notice these things.
Maybe I need your help. Here, take my phone. I'll pretend to call you. Ring, ring. Ring, ring.
Hello. Weirdo Things Detective Agency, can I help you? Oh my God. You've had a few gummies again, haven't you? You're high.
I have. Oh, and they are hitting me right now. And I need to go to sleep.
I'm gonna hang out here for a bit. Stare at the mountains way over there. Enjoy the sunset when it comes. Think about my plan.
You do you. Bye.
Oh, God. What now? Oh, shit!
I don't want to go.
Crap! Oh, shit, crap. It's happening. Lamont! Lamont, it's happening! A girl is being abducted, Lamont! Lamont!
Don't go, detective.
Fuck! What am I gonna do? What do I say? Oh, God, help. Help. Okay, I can do this. Crap. Hey! Hey, leave her alone, man! Get out of here! Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks.
Wait, where are you going? Are you sure you're fine?
I'm fine. Leave me alone. He's going to come back.
Who is that guy?
A guy. I don't need your help. Just go. I have to go.
Wait! Let me help you. Do you need train fare? Want a coffee?
Get away from me, lady. He's watching.
I don't give a shit about him.
You should.
I have mace.
Good for you, Charlie's angel.
Let's just pop in here for a coffee. We can watch the door. If he comes in, we'll yell. Let's just rest. And just rest. Okay?
Can you get me a sandwich, too?
Sure. Go find a seat in the back. I'll be right there.
Shit.
Here you go. I got you a latte and a smoked turkey and brie. I hope that's okay.
It's cool.
Do you want something else?
I don't like mayonnaise, but this is fine. I'm happy to have it, thanks.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Your nails look nice.
Oh, thanks. I got them done at the Salon on Magnolia. They do a good job there.
Magic nails?
Yeah. On Tuesdays, a mani-pedi is only $35. And, yeah.
I went to cosmetology school for a semester.
Oh, yeah?
I had to quit.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it sucked. I wanted to have a nail salon, like Magic Nails, but better.
You think you still could?
No,
Why?
because
Okay. Your eyeshadow looks nice. I can't get away with that electric green.
Sure you could. People are always telling us black girls what makeup we can and can't wear. You're not that much darker than me. You just have to know how to put it on right. Used to do my girls' makeup in high school and stuff. Prom, bat mitzvahs, and quinceañeras. Everybody came to Riri.
That's cool. Where'd you go to school?
Right here, North Hollywood High.
That's like 2 minutes away. You're a local.
Where'd you go?
I grew up in New York.
You don't sound like it.
Upstate.
Where's that?
Just up, like not Manhattan.
What brought you to North Hollywood?
I came here 15 years ago to be an actor.
Like half the people in this cafe. Especially that chick over there that keeps looking at me like I'm gonna steal her purse. I should go flex on her ass right now. Half the people in here are gonna be you in 10 years. Of the other half, 4 of them are probably gonna live in the hills and Studio City and complain about their stupid-ass parking spaces on the CBS lot. About 3 of them are still gonna be right here staring into their laptops. And maybe 1 or 2 will end up like me. Maybe 3. How did you end up?
I'm a chef now.
Good for you.
Man, but I have a lot of dreams. I came to NoHo because there were so many theaters and acting schools. Felt like its own gritty community. But secretly, I wanted to live in Valley Village.
Houses are so nice right there.
Right?
It's calm. It's white people calm.
Yeah, it is.
You live like that, don't you?
No. I live in an apartment.
But you got white people money.
I don't think so.
I used to walk around in Valley Village after school was out. All my friends would go to Taco Bell right there, but me, instead of getting on the bus to take me home to Studio Shitty, I go stroll in Valley Village.
Studio City? You lived in a nice area.
Yeah, I did. Sometimes I wish I was Valley Village. Somehow they protected themselves from all the rest of the chaos. They were preemptive. They rounded themselves up like the covered wagon people did, and they were like, no, we're good. You all go on across the highway over there to North Hollywood. Keep your arts and crafts and theater and auto zones over there. We're gonna look out at our trees and flowers and shit and be just fine. Protected.
NoHo has come far,
Because of people like you.
I suppose.
Nobody was looking for Federal Bar and those $15 burgers.
You've been in there?
The menu was in the window.
Right. Sorry, I was happy when it came. There was no place to get a nice cocktail, you know?
Yeah, if you're bougie. There's always been Little Tony's.
The martinis in that cute bar in the back are bomb.
My parents used to take us there when we were little. We would sit in those huge booths and they would get tore up at the bar and then we'd all stuff our faces with pizza and mozzarella sticks.
You're making me hungry, girl.
Me too.
What are you hungry for?
Another time. Sometimes I wish I could lift myself out of this time and place and put me into another one. Like you can do with the little orange guy on the map thing on your phone.
Where would you go?
Sometimes I'd take myself to Indianapolis.
Indianapolis?
It's where my grandma lived. Somehow I still remember her address. I used to write her. Well, she forced me to write her real letters with my hand and shit, and I'm glad I did. Because I remember her address still. So sometimes I put in her address and I just walk around her neighborhood and see stuff. And I pretend she's walking next to me. With me.
That's beautiful. So, is there anyone I can call for you, or?
My grandma died.
Right. Well, I was just... There's no one who's wondering where you are?
Yeah, that guy you ran off and a couple of others.
There's a security guard there. Maybe he can help us.
Us.
Maybe he can do something, like...
Listen, I gotta go. Thanks for the coffee.
I don't want you to leave.
Don't touch me.
I'm sorry. This is crazy. You shouldn't have to live like this, or do whatever it is they're making you do. There are people who can help you.
Yeah. Listen, lady.
Aimee-Lynn.
Aimee-Lynn. There isn't help for me. I've tried all that bullshit. Programs and people like you just want to be saviors and Instagram posts for people like me. You know, I've seen you and your white guy husband around in this neighborhood. I've seen you guys and your dogs at the park, eating at the cafes, strolling. While my people have me working in cars and waiting on corners and driving me to house parties and to hotels and to CVS bathrooms and to this very fucking cafe where that very fucking security guard turned his goddamn head when he saw what was going down. He looked away. So while you are just noticing me, I have been here. There isn't help for me. People will come help your assimilated ass in distress before they help me. This is the end of the line. There are chains around me, Aimee-Lynn. You can't see them, but I can. I feel them. I live them. Understand?
No, I don't understand. I can't and I won't.
Well, sister girl, that's on you.
So, what do we do?
We? I keep fucking telling you there is no we.
But there should be. Don't you know this is wrong? That you're being trafficked? I read about this and now it's happening right here and we should do something. We're all living on top of each other like it's normal and you're here. What kind of person would I be if...
Is this about you or me?
You!
Is it?
Yes, of course it is.
Right. Sure. Later.
Riri, wait. Wait.
That was 91601, North Hollywood. End of the line. Written by Peppur Chambers. Directed by Gregg T. Daniel. Starring Tamarra Graham as Aimee-Lynn, Mildred Marie Langford as Rhea, and Rob Nagle as Lamont. Production stage manager is Taylor Ann Cullen. Our audio producer, sound designer, and Foley artist is the fabulous Jeff Gardner. Ellen Mandel creates our original music. Sound editing is by Diego Tapia. The Zip Code Plays are sponsored in part by the Michael J. Connell Foundation. Antaeus Theater Company is an actor-driven ensemble that explores timely and timeless work, grounded in our passion for the classics. We believe in the transformative power of live theater, as well as the power of a theatrical education, which you can find out more about on our website, antaeus.org. That's ANTAEUS.org. Bill Brockchup and Kitty Swink are our artistic directors. Anna Rose O'Halloran is our executive director. Nicole Samsol is our ride-or-die director of operations. Additional production support by Jade Mujayas. Special thanks to our bookkeeper, Amy Mitchner, and our technical director, Adam Meyer. For more information about the Zip Code Plays or to support Antaeus, please visit our website at zipcodeplays.info. While there, check out the original illustrated maps of each of our zip codes created by artist Cynthia Jacquette. You can also visit highlights of each neighborhood in person or virtually by taking the Zip Code Plays tour. If you enjoyed this production, leave us a rating or review. It really helps new listeners find us. If you're looking for more great theater in LA, be sure to check out our friends at Lower Depth Theater, a company that celebrates the African diaspora in all its beauty and pain, fearlessly bearing witness to racial inequities and introducing the world to courageous playwrights. Next up.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anna Rose O'Halloran, producing executive director of Antaeus. We are going to do a Q&A with some panelists that I'm going to invite on in a moment, but we also would love to hear from our audience. So if you have questions about the play or about North Hollywood, you can feel free to drop them in the Q&A at any time, and we will be looking out for those. So first, I would like to invite our playwright, Peppur Chambers, to join us. And then next up, I would like to invite our director of the play, Gregg T. Daniel. Just taking a moment for people to jump on. Hi, Gregg. And then we are very honored to be partnering with the Los Angeles Public Library today. And so I would like to invite librarian from the North Hollywood Library, Brian Cunningham, to join us. And finally, we are thrilled to have Kelly C. Wallace, who is a California history subject specialist from the Los Angeles Public Library, here today too. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
It was so fun to revisit this play. I haven't heard it in a while. And as Alice said earlier, Antaeus put together these zip code plays kind of in response to the pandemic happening, and we were trying to find a way to continue producing theater. And we had this wonderful group of Playwrights lab members that Peppur is part of. And basically we did a call and asked for them to pitch us ideas that were zip code specific. So they picked the zip code and shared basically a couple sentence synopsis and who the characters were. But maybe we could just start with Peppur, if you want to share with us, what was it that inspired you to write this play?
Thank you, Anna Rose. Thank you, everyone. Happy to be here. What inspired me was literally that happened to me. So I lived near Groundworks Coffee off of Lancashire, and there was a woman there, and I wasn't sure what was going on, but something was going on. And then I ended up sort of befriending her and asking her. She never said like, oh, I'm being trafficked, but she was very like, people are watching, come back later, And so I did, and I bought her a coffee and all this stuff. So it was very much inspired by a real story and me feeling helpless, and also being like Aimee-Lynn and like, who am I trying to save, And so that's what it was. Yeah.
Great. I know that also Gregg, that Lower Depth, the theater company that you're involved in, that's mentioned in the credits, did a project around the Cycle of Violence series. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know Peppur was involved with that too.
Yes, we commissioned a playwright, Tara Palmquist, about 2 years ago to create a play for us regarding sex trafficking. It was called Safe Harbor. It was produced at the Zephyr Theater. I've lost track of time since the pandemic. I believe it was 2018 we produced it. But what was wonderful about it was that we sort of partnered, or we got a lot of information from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, known as NCMEC. They sort of really put us to the ropes in terms of how do you recognize someone might be trafficked? How do you help someone that might be trafficked? They were kind enough to send 2 representatives to one of the performances, and afterwards that we actually had a Q&A with the audience. You have no idea how much it goes on in our society, particularly out in Southern California. So while Safe Harbor, the play, is hopeful, because one of the women actually is 2 young girls, gets out of the life, so many don't. So it was wonderful to have, and we wanted the audience to feel like they were being activists in terms of learning. So many people afterward talked to us, I didn't know that. Oh, they wanted to A, gain greater knowledge, and B, how do they activate themselves? How do they become far more involved in noticing and maybe helping? So I would recommend anyone. They're very kind people. They have all kinds of literature. They will visit you. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, otherwise known as NCMEC. I think you can find them at missingkids.org. That's missingkids.org. But the play that was created around sex trafficking was really poignant. It was just lovely about how these 2 young innocent girls got trapped up in the life, and you didn't see it coming at all. And I think it shocked every one of our audience members. And of course, Peppur felt very moved by it.
Very moved.
She was very moved by it, and so she created this play sort of with that kind of knowledge.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. I think one of the things that people tend to be surprised about with this project is that we did it all remote, because part of what we really wanted to do during the pandemic was ensure that our artists could stay safe. So even through the recording process, everyone was at home and separate. We delivered kits to their houses. They weren't in the same room, so we had to create this intimacy. And especially in this play, there are a lot of moments where it feels like the actors really are in the same room. So maybe Peppur and Gregg, you could just speak a little bit about what that process was like, and from the creative side, how you went about it.
I'll just say from the writing side, I love the idea of creating this intimacy for them. And I love vintage things. So I already loved radio plays. So I was really excited to give the actors something that they could do that would make them feel like this, like close by each other. So I was super inspired by that. And then when we got our actors, Rob Nagle's in the chat, he's chatting away. Those guys were so fantastic. And then getting to work with Gregg's creativity just hopped in. So Gregg, take it away on your side.
Well, just 2 words with Jeff Gardner. Jeff Gardner, who's our producer, audio engineer, sound designer. I mean, what Jeff takes material and what he does and how he mixes Foley into it is it's just remarkable. I just think it's remarkable. So we were blessed to have that talent and the original idea, of course, of Peppur's. All of us are conscientious and thoughtful people. And so the burning question for me with Peppur's work with, well, how do you help people? How do you help people who seem to refuse being or don't want your help? I mean, we as thinking, sensitized human beings, we reach out to people in need. We want to, but how far are we willing to go? So she engages her, but the woman literally does not know. I want to reject you. I don't want your way of life. So how do we reconcile that? How do we feel like we're actually uplifting people without insulting, without belittling, how do we become an effective tool? And that just kept burning in me, because there's so many scenes I see every day, particularly now in the homeless all around, everywhere in the city. How do we lift them up? How do we as concerned human beings? So that was a burning question for me. And that became for me one of the ways to approach it, that Aimee-Lynn so wants to help her. She so wants to help Riri, but doesn't know, how do I negotiate this woman's defense mechanisms and get through? Once you start with that, then we all became sort of interested in listening. And of course, we had Rob Nagle, who keeps us laughing all the time, who keeps, in the midst of all this, we have Rob Nagle. So that became the burning question for me that I thought was in the heart of the play and help instill in the actors in terms of reaching out to each other as human beings in the society.
And Mildred's in the chat too. She was
hi, Mildred. You were wonderful.
They did
Don't forget
great.
about Mildred and Tamarra.
Not about Mildred. Yes.
Peppur, can you talk a little bit about why you specifically chose the North Hollywood zip code for this play?
Yes, it's my home. It was my home. When I moved from New York, I wanted to live in Valley Village. Like, I found it and I'm like, oh my God, what's this Valley Village? And I ended up on the other side in North Hollywood. But I love North Hollywood. I love that I've been able over the past 15 years to see how it's grown, to see how it's changed, and to become a part of it and support it. Like literally we always had to go over the hill to get a drink. But literally when Federal Bar came and some other places, it was like, no, we can stay right here, and I thought that was really special. And I try to support the neighborhood and be a part of it as much as I can and things like this and talking about it. And yeah, I just love North Hollywood. And also in the way that it has changed to the, I guess, negative side as well. So there is an influx of people experiencing homelessness, and you are literally every day, unfortunately, either stepping over someone or looking at something. And, but it's also a part of what it is now. And we need to look at each other. We need to see each other. We need to know that it's happening. And while there's not always a solution, there's this feeling of us and them, us versus them. And I don't think that's right as well, but it's definitely, it's my home, it was my LA growing up place, so.
Yeah. And I know Ramón says this in the intro, but North Hollywood is very special to Antaeus too, because prior to being in Glendale, we spent many years in North Hollywood and saw the transition of the neighborhood while we were there. So maybe Kelly, I'd like to go over to you and ask a question just about if you have so much expertise in this area, and I think it ties into the tours that we have done as part of the Zip Code Plays too. Just to talk a little bit about the history of North Hollywood and how it has transitioned over the years.
Yeah, as the California history librarian at Los Angeles Public Library, I thought it'd be fun to talk a little bit about the history of the neighborhood and the places that are mentioned in End of the Line. And I just want to say, any of you can jump in, and Peppur, you can jump in if you have anything to add or correct or, But the NoHo Arts District, Groundwood Coffee and the train depot and Federal Bar in the 1920s bank building are part of the revitalized North Hollywood, but they're also part of its past. So let's talk briefly about that past. The area now known as North Hollywood is one of the oldest communities in the San Fernando Valley. The area's first residents were members of the Tongva, Chumash, and Shoshone Indian tribes. And a lot of the names in the area are derived from these native languages like Cahuenga, Topanga, Tahunga. The area then became part of the vast landholdings of the San Fernando Mission. And when those landholdings were sold off, Isaac Lankersham, a successful grain farmer and stockman from Northern California, bought 60,000 acres, or the southern half of the mission's land holdings, from Pio Pico. And he later brought in his friend and future son-in-law, Isaac Van Nuys, to join him in the venture. And those two names still resonate, obviously, with Valley, because so many streets and cities named after them. After Isaac Lankersham's death in 1882, his son, J.B. Lankersham, and Isaac Van Nuys started the Lankersham Ranch Land and Water Company, and then later formed a town site. Now, this is where some of the naming gets complicated. In 1893, the United States government opened a post office under the name Toluca, which was the Indian name for the nearby marshlands. Toluca Lake, like we know it now, didn't exist at that time. It was just kind of, marshland. But then in 1895, the Southern Pacific Railroad opened a train depot literally across the street with a big sign that said Lankersham. And so the controversy and confusion over the name of the town led to a saying coined by the locals that was, ship it to Lankersham, but bill it to Toluca. And so they used that for a while. And then J.B. Lankersham threatened to use his influence to force Southern Pacific to stop service to the town unless the town was named after his father, to honor his father. So the post office and the town became Lankersham. Now, the area's sandy loam soil was rich in iron and retained water, which, as we know in LA, is very important because there's never enough water. This is before the aqueduct. And so it made it ideal for growing not oranges, but for growing peaches, apricots, and plums. And the Lankersham Ranch company eventually planted 50,000 trees around the area. And so Lankersham earned the nickname Home of the Peach. And then later in the 30s, when it became less agricultural and more residential, that was changed a little bit to peach of a place for a home. Anyway, now Lankersham was annexed to Los Angeles in 1923, primarily for water. They wanted to be able to access the water because the Los Angeles Aqueduct had opened in 1913, but Los Angeles was prohibited from selling any excess water outside of the city limits. So the farmers over there voted to become part of the city of Los Angeles to gain access to the water. Then in 1927, they decided they wanted to catch part of the glitz and glamour that Hollywood had. And, in the 20s, the motion picture industry had taken the city of Los Angeles by storm. I think it was the biggest employer in the city and, star power. So Lankersham decided they wanted to cash in on that a little bit. So they renamed themselves North Hollywood, even though they don't share any borders with Hollywood. So then North Hollywood became kind of the downtown for the Valley. It had a thriving business district with banks, hotels, lots of shops, a red car trolley line. But then, like many downtowns, it started to fade, lose its luster after World War II. And, freeways were built, getting around became easier. And so businesses and residents started moving farther west, particularly when they opened big shopping malls, and that sort of left the aging business district in North Hollywood behind. By the 90s, North Hollywood had fallen on hard times. And then the Northridge earthquake happened in 1994 and damaged a lot of the aging storefronts. North Hollywood gained a bad reputation for crime and blight. And two of the more well-off areas of North Hollywood, Valley Village, as Peppur mentioned, and Valley Glen, broke off from North Hollywood and renamed themselves. I didn't want to be part of North Hollywood. So then business and theater owners in the local Chamber of Commerce in 1992 established a theater and arts district with support from the Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs. And they chose NoHo as kind of play off of the famous Soho district in New York City. And NoHo is a 1 square mile area that is home to more than 20 theaters and numerous art galleries, cafes, restaurants, bars, and shops. District attracts many artists, actors, theater people, creatives in general, people like Aimee-Lynn and Lamont in the play. And I just want to mention here, I think that it's interesting because I think a lot of times this is what starts revitalization of neighborhoods. I know I'm from the Pasadena area. I know Old Town Pasadena started with, the artists coming in, the little independent galleries and clothing stores, and, they come for cheap rents and then, create a sort of a thriving hub. So anyway, and then Groundwork Coffee, where much of the play takes place, is in the old Lancashire Depot, the depot that was built across the street from the Toluca Post Office in 1895. And Southern Pacific decided to put the train station there because of, remember the peaches, of all the fruit and canning around the area. They want to connect that agricultural area with the ports. And so the railroad tracks and station were built for this reason. And in 1911, the Pacific Electric Red Car line opened at the station and stayed in operation until 1952. And then the building served as a Hendricks building supply until might have closed before 1993. Metro, the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, took over in 1993 and used it while they were building the Red Line. Then it sat vacant for 30 years when Metro and the Community Redevelopment Agency couldn't quite agree on what to do with the train station. And so then finally, after many stalled plans in 2011, they moved forward with restoring the station. And they really did thorough research and, brought back the original paint colors and repaired the original window. So really took it back to how it looked originally. And they did such a good job that actually won a Los Angeles Conservancy Preservation Award. And it reopened as Groundwork Coffee in 2017. And so it now again serves the local residents and the transportation system, the people that use the Red Line and the Orange Line. And it really is kind of a center of the community. Now, the Federal Bar, which is also mentioned in the play, occupies one of the oldest buildings in North Hollywood, a former bank building built in the 20s, when North Hollywood had the thriving business district. It had this ornate brick building, was part of this, big downtown area of North Hollywood. And it was built in 1926 for Security Trust and Savings Bank by John and Donald Parkinson, father and son architects. And if you're not familiar with their names, they are very key in Los Angeles. They were the architects of Union Station, Wilshire, Los Angeles City Hall, the LA Coliseum. I mean, they just have a big part in the development of Los Angeles. Anyway, they designed that bank building of the Federal Bar. So it's another great example of creative reuse, I think is the term they like to use. But and then lastly, in contrast to the Federal Bar, we have Little Tony's, which was mentioned, which is an old school Italian restaurant that has been around, I believe, since 1956. And that's the kind of neighborhood place that lends the community, the flavor and authenticity and a character that you don't want to lose while you are revitalizing the area. And that's kind of demonstrates sort of a delicate balance that a lot of communities have to strike when they're trying to revitalize, but you don't want to lose all of your old stories. Yeah. Anyway, that concludes the history lesson for today.
Fascinating. I was going to say that one of the things we've learned in this is while each neighborhood is so unique, and I love all of those specifics about North Hollywood, you quickly see when you look at the different neighborhoods how interconnected all of Los Angeles is, especially when you start looking at architecture and who was building what where. Peppur, I was going to circle back to you and maybe just ask, how much of that history and those places played into your play and how you chose some of the settings, because it feels like it's interconnected and the gentrification of North Hollywood fits into there.
Yes, yes, very much. And literally because I lived on that corner. So I saw Federal Bar come, I saw Groundworks come, and I saw Little Tony's and I saw all the coffee shops come. So just literally walking around they're kind of, for people that don't know, they're all very close, as Kelly just said, they're very close to each other. So you're just sort of walking and seeing. And so, so just, I feel like if I'm answering the question correctly, it just kind of became a part of me, and it is my homage to the neighborhood and the way that it's changing and all the beautiful, and where the building where Antaeus was, it's beautiful, those connected buildings and all of the architecture that's there too. It's just, I don't know, I just think it's a beautiful place that people don't really take a moment to look at unless maybe they live there and you get a chance to walk, and see the streets. So yeah.
Great. Brian, maybe you can jump in here and talk as a person who spends a lot of time in North Hollywood.
Right, just 2 blocks south.
Talk a little bit about the library and so the community that you serve there and what type of resources you all have available.
Yeah. So for those who are unaware, we're located just about 2 blocks south of the epicenter of Peppur's play. We're at Magnolia in Tujunga, and I really enjoyed Kelly's depiction of North Hollywood at an earlier point in time, especially I'm thinking summertime, stone fruit season. I want to live in this version of North Hollywood where I can just walk around and find a tree. Unfortunately, while there is great things about it around here, that particular fantasy I don't think can be achieved. But, So to give you a little brief history of the library. In its current iteration at this intersection of Tujunga and Magnolia, we've been here since 1929. We just had our 92nd anniversary, but it had a few different iterations before that. The earliest of which was in 2 bookcases in the early 1900s inside of a city of what was, as Kelly mentioned, then Lancashire post office. Eventually it moved to a designated section within a feed store on the corner of Lancashire and Margate, and then eventually to its own building next to the police station. There was annexation to the city of LA, and then the move to where we are now was 1929, so it was originally named after Confederate poet Sidney Lanier. And then in 1980, there was a Board of Library Commissioners decision to rename it after Amelia Earhart, who lived nearby in Toluca Lake in the early 30s, and apparently did a lot of her research here at this facility on aviation. We still have an aviation collection. That's one of our special collections, as well as tons and tons of plays for any actors or playwrights in the room who want to come and check out some materials. So that's, yes, we do have a scarf of Amelia's as well. One of my coworkers, Emily, is chiming in the chat. Yes, so we have some interesting ephemera.
I didn't know that she lived in Toluca. That's so exciting. I would think, you guys, I had the Amelia Earhart doll growing up, she was a little stuffed doll. So my goodness, how special. I really didn't know she lived there. That's breathtaking to me. I love it.
It's exciting, yeah. Thanks. That was kind of the main gist of it. Is there anything else you want to ask specifically? I'm happy to answer it.
Just a reminder to people that they can put any questions that you have in the chat. I was just going to throw out one other question. Maybe Gregg, I will direct this one to you. And as Kelly mentioned, Aimee-Lynn talks about being an actor, moving to North Hollywood, and there is this very vibrant theater community. And I know the other day when we spoke, you spoke a little bit about that. Maybe could you just speak to your own experience of theater companies in North Hollywood?
My education for North Hollywood, we began with Antaeus because we were based out there, and I'm a proud member of Antaeus and has been for years, as well as my wife, Erin Jones. But also in 2009, I was contracted to direct a play at the Group Repertory Theater, which is on Burbank, I think, in Chandler. And subsequently, we became close, and I was going out there quite a lot to direct plays. And then suddenly, all these places, the Winmore Lindley Theater, El Portal. Suddenly, I had no idea, because I live on the other side of the hill. I had no idea there was a plethora of legit theater stages out here. I was sort of bemused, like, wow, and nice stages and it had a history, not just storefronts that popped up somewhere, but theater companies that had been thriving for quite some time. So I sort of gained a whole new level of respect for North Hollywood and how it was sort of the embryonic stage of so many theater companies. I wound up working for the group repertory theater for at least 4 or 5 plays that would come out, and it was always an education to me. And then I started going out to see plays in North Hollywood. Could you imagine that? Not going downtown or staying in LA, but seeing a play on the other side of the hill. But I came to really treasure it, knowing that there was a vibrant community of theaters, very, very different, everything from Antaeus and classical to the Whitmore Lindley to El Portal to solo to group reps, so many different approaches to theater. But nonetheless, this love of the stage, this love of live theater, something that really galvanized me. And I thought, what a treat that I live in a place that on the other side of the hill where I can find thriving theater communities.
Great. Peppur, I'm just going to circle back to you for one final question, unless we get some questions in the Q&A. We'll wrap up here. But what is it that you want people to leave end of the line thinking about or doing or activating?
Thanks for asking that. In my heart, it is to open your eyes, literally. Just even if you're not in North Hollywood, but wherever you are, just see who's around you and be noticeable, like notice things and see each other. That's the one thing. And the other thing is, if you do see someone that looks like they need some help, like just do, even if it's make a phone call, do something, just do something. And because if we don't, we just, I feel like we're just being a disservice to each other if we don't try, even if it's scary. So those are the 2 things. And the third thing is support art. Just support art. Like, listen, do things, go to things, support people like all of us on this call. It's important.
Mm-hmm. It's especially a hard time for the performing arts. So we appreciate you all being here today.
So much.
We have a couple of questions that have come in for the Q&A. One is for you, Peppur, just asking a little bit about what your writing process was like. Is there research involved? Like, how does it all come together?
Yes. Well, what's exciting is this play started as in the early pandemic for Antaeus. I submitted a 10-minute play, Anna Rose, and it was about just the couple. So it started out with them, like literally we were all drinking on Tuesdays. We were all, and also it was real there. I would walk the dogs and there was this white car that was parked there from the beginning of pandemic all the way. And I was just had so much anxiety about it. And so I just, so my process is literally, I am an observer. So as I'm observing things, either it will inspire me to write something or I will bring it in and try and make a point about it, So that really is my process. So it started out as one thing, and then through Gregg's help too, like, okay, we can cut the couple part. What's really interesting is, so that was part of it. So definitely the inspiration, pandemic was an interesting time for all of us, and Laura Duff did a pandemic play too. And I think that's a call for, is what I'm trying to say. And that kicked off me writing again. So between those 2 bookend pieces, I got to come alive again and get into process, but it's really, for me, it's all about observation and then making some sort of point about what's going on in the world.
Here's a shameless plug, but we just commissioned Peppur to write a 1-act play for Lower Depth Theater. Yeah. So she's still developing it, but she has a wonderful idea. She's a great playwright. So we just recently commissioned her to do a 1-act. So
here's another shameless plug. We are doing season 3, and Peppur is one of our playwrights for season 3 of the Zip Code plays. Visiting a different zip code, but
you can tell I'm excited. I can't stand it. So much greatness. So much greatness. Oh.
We have another question in the Q&A from Rob Nagle, a familiar name to the Antaeus community. It's for Gregg, and it says, Gregg, you're both a wonderful director and also a wonderful actor with a brilliantly talented partner in Aimee-Lynn, but do you prefer one to the other?
No, I actually tell you, if directing makes my acting better, and my acting makes my directing better. It just seizes on these certain synapses begin to fire in ways that one feeds the other. I couldn't foresee doing one without the other. And it really took me some time to grow into and accept that I could make them both meld together and that one would feed the other. So I'm so pleased. And this town of Los Angeles has given me so many opportunities to act and to direct that I'm very, very pleased, particularly to direct Rob Nagle.
We have one more question in the Q&A, sort of a geographical question, I guess. I think, Gregg, maybe you mentioned going onto one side of the hill or the other as you're going around. Someone says, what is the hill? So...
Well, I know some people won't go to anything east of La Brea is like a wasteland. So I mean, it's just for me coming over the what is that thing? The canyon is sort of the hill. That's what we consider the hill. For folks who live in the Mid-Wilshire district, hitting that and going over a Laurel Canyon or anything like that, that's for us is the hill. But believe me, I've changed, I've recanted. There are wonderful things going on the other side of the hill. So I recant.
And for the other people, if you take Laurel Canyon, for example, there really is a feeling like you're going up into the canyon and then in the thing, and then you go down into the canyon, and then the temperature used to change. It would be, oh my God, it's hotter in the valley and nobody wants to go there. It just was awful.
Yeah. Jumps 10 degrees all leave.
Yeah.
And that's all of our questions, as far as I can tell, unless there's anything else.
And I will say we have a listener coming in from Prague. So she's Elizabeth Stana. Thank you. She was in a play that I directed. We did help me out. It'll come to me, but we did an all-women production, and Elizabeth was in it. So I just want to say, because we're international, guys, international today. So, oh yeah, Glenn Ross. Thank you. But anyways, it's fun to know that we're international and that theater is being supported all over the world.
And I love to thank Brian and Kelly for also giving us the history and catching up, because I know so little about these areas. I'm a native New Yorker, quite frankly, and when I hear this full information about Van Nuys and Lancashire, it's music to my ears, because I treasure history and I just don't hear about it. It's not sort of shared enough. So to hear from two people who are so steeped in the history of North Hollywood, it really was a pleasure. Thank you both, Brian and Kelly.
Nice. And knowing about Toluca, and go to the library. It's a beautiful building on the outside and the inside. It still has a lot of charm, and there's wood inside. It's gorgeous. I love sitting in there. So I'm glad you get to be there, Brian. And you're there now, right? You said
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I think I'll just thank all of you for being here with us today. And just again, I want to thank our sponsors, thank the Michael J. Connell Foundation, and thank April Webster for being the sponsor of this play. And if you look in the chat, we're going to have links being shared for both our first and second season of the Zip Code Plays, and also our Zip Code Play tours, where you can go on our website and take tours either virtually or in person of all the neighborhoods featured in the series. So we hope that you enjoy that, and thank everyone for being here today. And I will hand it over to Brian with some information about the library.
So I mean, I guess I kind of weaved in most of what I wanted to cover a little bit earlier, but just to remind people who, even though I know we have an international crowd here, despite the geographic specificity of the play, just that we're a resource for you, for actors, for playwrights, and we're now back to our pre-pandemic hours. So we're once again open about 60 hours a week. So that's why I'm here in the building on a Saturday. Yes, we're here.
All righty. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Peppur,
everyone.
Gregg.
Thank you, guys. It was great. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Alice.
And thank you, everyone, for spending your Saturday with us.
Peppur, go writing. Go to write.
I know. That's right. I'm going to go right now. I owe you pages. I turned in for those guys. I love it. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your Saturday.